Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 11 of the Mousetrap Podcast. I am Carter Thweet, joined as always by my co-host Isaac Hardy. Isaac, hello.
How's it going? How's it going?
We are excited to get into another week of Dynasty. A lot of interesting things happening. I am excited. I'm wearing my bathrobe, but I'm still very happy to be here. We got our week five recap, our week five power rankings, our week six picks, and then some trades. Not as crazy of a Dynasty episode as last week. No guest and no agenda item that says what, but
Yeah,
still
no
some exciting
three-team
stuff to get
trades.
into. Isaac, anything before we hop in?
Not, I think it was kind of a revealing week of Dynasty, so I'm excited to hop into it.
I think so too. A lot of teams are very different from where they were a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So taking a look at some of these final scores, starting with me and Austin, this was one that I did not have a good feeling about because Austin traded me Lamar, and obviously Lamar was out this week, so I felt like I was only making his team better, giving him Jared Goff. But I
Mhm.
won and won convincingly. I don't know if there's anything that you saw from this game. Obviously, I was very happy with how it went.
Yeah, I mean Rico Dowdle, of course. I'm not sure that's something you can rely upon a 200-yard masterclass, but um, as long as CMC is healthy, like even if you lose other guys, even if you have underperformers, you've always got a shot because that dude is insane.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, literally a wide receiver, and I had to put Kelsey in at Superflex because Penix was on bye and Lamar was out, and then he did 22. So well done there for Travis Kelsey. Taking a look at your game, you beat Chitty by two in a game that was much closer than it looked like it was going to be. Talk about this one.
Yeah, this one was exciting. Of course, Javonte Williams is looking insane for me. He's just a touchdown machine. Everyone really did well. I was hurting from that super flex spot, putting in RJ Harvey who put up six. But it came down to it on Sunday night. I was up like 27 maybe on Chitty, 25, and thinking like all he's got is Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is gonna have a legacy game, and he nearly did. So I was kind of sweating in my britches a little bit there. Glad I got the one. Definitely feel like I deserve that win. But yeah, that was scary there.
I would actually say Stephon Diggs did have a legacy game. It just wasn't enough of a legacy game to beat you because he went
Yeah,
off. If Chitty, I'm not saying I would have done this, but if he put in Xavier Legette for AJ Brown or Chris Godwin, he would have won, which I think really just speaks to how bad those two guys played. Jerome Ford, starting him at this point is malpractice. So Chitty, I think, kind of deserves what he got there. But yeah, he scored
he's got no one
133.
else.
Yeah, tough
Got
loss
no one
for
else.
him. Good win for you.
Um, so Tucker versus TJ, this is an interesting one because the records would make you think it should have gone the other way, but Tucker's clearly just caught the injury bug this year and has decided to kind of reset, reload, retool for next year. Whereas TJ had a tough number of losses to start the season out and has just really kind of turned it on here. Two high scoring weeks in a row. And I'm curious just what kind of stands out to you looking at TJ's team. Of course, he's going to be 2-3 now. Moving up our power rankings. So I know we'll talk about him more, but just kind of what stands out to you there.
I mean, Puka is the main thing that stands out. It's just a guaranteed like 25 every week. He's got to be maybe the highest scoring player in fantasy. I haven't looked. Gibbs really consistent. Justin Fields is very boom or bust, but it's starting to feel like you're getting more booms from him. 3 out of the 4 weeks he's played, he's had more than 25, and the other one was the game he got hurt. So Puka's one you'd expect. Justin Fields, not one you'd expect. Brenton Strange, I'm not sure how bad that injury is, but he's got Kyle Pitts on his bench kind of ready to fill in. So I think we knew TJ's team was better than 0-3, and as long as he has Puka, kind of like me with CMC, as long as he has Puka, he's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I will say, just looking at Justin Fields, I will just say his two last games are against Dallas and Miami, probably two of the worst defenses in the league. He's catching Denver next. So that's just one to keep your eye on if he's for real or not. But certainly living up to the first round pick TJ paid for him so far.
Yeah.
Uh, Another close, probably the game of the week, honestly. Nixon versus Grant. This one's a nail biter. Uh, Less than 2 point difference.
Yeah, I don't remember what oh, it was Drake versus Logan was officially America's game of the week, but in terms of how they actually played out, this one was pretty wild. I think if I remember right, it kind of looked like Nixon was going to win, and then in the
Hmm.
325 window, Agbuka just did what he tends to do. Grant got a huge performance from Mac Jones on Thursday night. Even though Jake Browning is the worst quarterback of all time, Jamar Chase went off, but 146 to 145. We'll talk about it later, but I did not ding Nixon in my power rankings for this one too much because he dropped 145. Just a great game. Both teams went off. What can you really say?
Yeah, tough one to lose for sure for Nixon there. But going on to our game of the week, which turned into our snooze of the week, our lowest combined scores. Kind of a boring game. Logan does pull it out over Drake, though. Things that the one thing that just really stands out to me, and this is a wait and see, but Quentin Johnson putting up 7 points after Drake traded for him. I believe he traded a first round pick or something for him. Is yeah, first Devontae Smith and Dwan Johnson for QJ, who put up 7 points. So that's just something to keep our eye on moving forward. Is this a dud week or is this a sign of him coming back down to earth of what he really is? So that's just interesting for me.
Yeah, Gino at the QB2 is not great. He looks really bad. Most interceptions in the NFL this season. And Drake doesn't really have a backup quarterback to my knowledge. He's got Aaron Jones coming back, and he had Bijan on bye this week. So I don't want to be too critical because, that really hurt him. Bijan's on a bye, but it does kind of worry me. Quentin Johnston caught all four of his targets, but I don't know if that's good that he caught all four or if it's worrying that he only got four targets.
Mhm.
You kind of felt like he was going to come back to earth at some point. Gino at the QB2 is not great. Hard to ding Drake too much for a loss without Bijan, but you'd still hope he puts up more than 85 points.
Certainly. And then looking to our last game, finally, Charlie gets his first win of the season in convincing fashion. Is he our highest score of the week? Oh no, okay, you are, but he's second highest score of the week. Great games out of some of his guys like Jonathan Taylor, Sam Darnold, of course. Tua looking nice even after the trade, doing well in Joku. So just really happy for you, Charlie. Like, look at this team. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think, like Njoku at tight end is questionable. I think these quarterbacks are kind of boomer bust, but I don't hate this team. I certainly think he's better than Owen Fuller, and glad to see he got his first W.
Yeah, we'll talk more about him in power rankings. His bench really worries me. There's not a lot going on behind these starters, but really impressive to put up this amount of points, especially when Jamison Williams had a whopping two. So shout out
Hmm.
Char. I think his team's a little better than his record, and I'm glad to see him prove it. And 111 is honestly a pretty solid total for Evan as well. So, good stuff
Yeah.
all around.
So let's start from the top with our power rankings like we have in the past. So we both just have Logan. We didn't really get to talk about Logan on last episode, so I just really kind of want to give him his space here. So this week he had a number of dudes on bye. Josh Jacobs, who would probably start, DeAndre Swift, Tucker Kraft, all on bye this week. But I just look at this squad, there's nothing like crazy that stands out of it. Amon Ra is good, but he's not like a top three fantasy wide receiver. Nico Collins as well. But he's just got guys at every position, like Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, great quarterback duo. His wide receivers are actually insane. Amon Ra, Nico, and Cortland Sutton all combined. He's also got Keenan Allen, who's been hooping, Michael Pittman off the bench. And so his wide receiver slot's really good. J.K. Dobbins has been hooping with Josh Jacobs there at the running back, and Tucker Kraft / Mark Andrews at tight end. So I think this is a really well constructed team. He didn't put up a bunch of points this week, but he's moving on to 5-0, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, not much to add to that, but he's the only 5-0 team in the league. And he scored 107, but a large part of that is because of the buys. He's not going to be starting Ray Davis most weeks. Josh Jacobs
Right.
and DeAndre being on bye in the same week is really tough. Tucker Kraft being on bye is really tough. That leads to him putting in Mandrews, who had a bad game. So he's 5-0, best team in the league, and still managed to win despite some buys that actually really affected him this week.
Certainly. Let's move on. Let's just talk Grant next, and we'll talk to you. So we're both kind of apart here on our second. So I've got Grant in as a number two. And my one kind of ding on him is he did just lose Hampton, at least for a while. That injury is tough, and he doesn't have a lot to fill in there, which is concerning. But there's wide receivers like Buka, Tet, Jamar Chase. He's getting Rasheed Rice back, so I feel like one of those could be moved if he wanted to for another running back. I just like that wide receiver room is crazy to me. I think Caleb Williams, and whenever he gets back from bye, is kind of a boom potential quarterback. So I'm just really liking what Grant is doing here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him make a move this week for maybe a running back to help fill out that slot. I watched that Vikings game. Harold Fannin was looking like a target that Dylan Gabriel likes. So I'm just a really big fan of Grant's team now and moving forward.
Yeah, we were really far apart on Grant to begin with. I had him at 7, you had him at 2. So you left him in that spot. I moved him up 2 spots to 5. I'm trying to figure out how I want to talk about this because I feel like the thing that jumps out is that I have Nixon at 4 ahead of him, and Grant just beat Nixon. And there's a reason
Hmm.
for that. There's also me at number 2. I guess can I go ahead and do the Grant Nixon thing?
Sure.
So I have Nixon at 4, Grant at 5. I know some people might say, wait, Grant just beat Nixon. But obviously, this was a really close game. It was 146 to 145. So I don't feel like that's necessarily indicative of some huge gap. And I think maybe Grant maybe has a better chance of winning the championship, but I just see some problems right now. I think Nixon's in a better spot right now. You mentioned the Hampton thing, and Grant, his only other running back on roster is Trey Benson. So obviously he's not going to be playing. So Grant's going to have to figure something out, get a guy off waivers, I guess. Even when Caleb Williams comes back, he's going to be starting, I think, Caleb Williams and Cam Ward because he got rid of Mac Jones. So he's going to have to find a running back off waivers. The quarterback spot's not great. And so I like Grant's team a lot, but when I look at these two teams, they were separated by 1 point. And I think the Mac Jones trade and the Hampton injury really hurts Grant. I think Nixon can kind of start moving Jordan Addison into that receiver spot, which has been his big weakness. So I don't know. That's why I did that. The teams were only 1 point apart this week, and I think Grant has some real problems to solve. Obviously, I wouldn't be mad at anybody who put Grant above Nixon since Grant beat him, but that's why I have Nixon at 4, Grant at 5.
Certainly, I'm much lower on Nixon. I have him down at 7. Kind of for the opposite of what you're saying. I think that wide receiver hole is just gaping. Jacoby Myers and Rashid Shaheed is just painful. Shaheed had like a huge touchdown in the game, which is like most of his fantasy points. And then even the flex, like David Montgomery there, he got 2 touchdowns and he only put up 18. That's concerning. So I'm feeling some holes in that squad. And even like Kyron Williams has been losing out on touches. You know, he only got 14 carries, only 65 yards. Like if he doesn't get all those checkdowns, 10 reception or 10 targets, I don't think he has a game like that. So that just concerns me with Nixon. He's done really well, and I've been really reticent to move him up the power rankings. And maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I just feel like just those wide receivers aren't going to be able to maintain production to keep him relevant. But
Yeah, it's
let's
not great. He's got some chances to move up coming up for sure.
yeah, let's talk you. So you've got you at 2. I've got you at 4. So I'll give you yourself. I'll let you pitch yourself first.
Yeah, it's the team's not perfect, but I pretty strongly disagree. And I feel like every time I disagree with you, you come back with some counter argument and cook me. So I'm well prepared for that. But I pretty strongly disagree with Grant being above me. I outscored him this week by 17 points, and he now has kind of mid quarterbacks, and Omari and Hampton's hurt. So I'm not saying I'm going to be better than him at the end of the season. Obviously, Derrick Henry is kind of getting worse and worse. CMC could get injured at any time. But I just dropped 162. I just got Lamar Jackson, who didn't even play for me this week, which is looking really, really good. Like you said, as long as I have CMC, I'm a threat. And I also dropped 162 with Drake London on my bench. So I think things are looking up for me, whereas in the next few weeks, I think Grant could struggle a little bit. I don't know. I'm probably not going to drop 162 again, so got to put me up the power rankings while I can.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, I've got you at 4. I'm definitely high on you. The things that kind of just stand out to me is Derrick Henry's downtick in production is like becoming alarming. 15 carries for 33 yards. Like that's really bad by his standards, and it's been kind of a trend. So then I'm thinking, is this going to be a gaping hole in your lineup as well as the BTJ recession in this second year? Also concerning, by name value, it seems great. You got BTJ and Drake London, but Brian Thomas just really hasn't done much to solidify that value. And then Rico Dowdle, he looked good while Chuba Hubbard's out, but once he comes back, I think that production is going to fall off, and you're going to be staring at kind of a void there in that flex spot. So that's just kind of my dinks on you. But of course, I've got you at 4, so I'm very high on your team as well.
Let me say one thing real quick. And it's not really a counter argument. The one thing with Henry, Lamar was out this week. Henry has been much worse this year, but I'm hopeful when Lamar comes back, he won't be that bad. Also, can we just appreciate my tight end room real quick? I have 4 tight ends who got a combined 80 points. Sam Laporta, Travis Kelsey, Darren Waller, who is like really good now apparently, and Dalton Kincaid. So I may not win the championship, but I have the best tight end room in the league. I probably need to start trading some of these guys because it's just absurd how many good tight ends I have.
Yeah, tight end's a hole a lot of teams have. Like Grant could use a tight end. So yeah, certainly something to look into. So let's talk me here. We both actually agree. We've got me at three. A lot of this is based off our trade, which we'll talk about later. So I don't want to dive too much into that. But I seem to just keep finding ways to win. And guys, Javante Williams is looking like a steal. JSN's performing like a top receiver. Tyler Warren, of course, one of the best tight ends in the league already. Once I bring in Baker and CD and get them starting, I really think I'm going to be a force to reckon with.
Yeah, you've got a better record than me. You're going to be 4-1. I'm going to be 3-2. And your team's starting to look kind of stacked. Like Javante, I think is just legit at this point. Scattaboo still looks pretty good, even though he lost a fumble. JSN, Tyler Warren is a stud, consistent 15 at tight end. George Pickens is a stud. Baker's QB2 on the year. So I just look up and down the roster. I see a ton of talent. Honestly, the one thing I notice every time I look at your team is that you have JJ McCarthy as untouchable when I have said I believe there are a few players more touchable than JJ McCarthy. But other than that, I really respect what you've done with this team, and I wouldn't want to play you right now. There's just you don't really have a hole. There's talent at every single position. You've solved the QB thing. It's looking really, really good.
Let's do Drake next. So I've got Drake at five, and you've got him at seven. So of course he had a really down week. He was our lowest scorer this week, and I feel like it just kind of poked some holes in his squad. So he made kind of those win now moves with some of his trades, but that quarterback room is looking tough. Drake May's fine, but can you trust him on a week to week basis? And Geno Smith is buns, and that's the quarterback room right there. So he's got to start both those guys. Bijan was out, of course, which does take a hit, but and James Cook had a bad week, but it's the QJ thing and then that flex spot. It's like, can you really trust Trey Tucker to put up points? And then that becomes a glaring hole. So that's just kind of what concerns me that a QJ trade and then the quarterback room is really weak. And I think this might be something that limits Drake moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to say, so you have Drake at 5. I have him at 7. And I like that might seem like a big overreaction, a big downgrade. It's not because I think Drake is awful. It's just there's a lot of good teams. Like, what
Hmm.
am I gonna do? Not like move TJ down after he just won and dropped like 130. Like I can't do that. The one thing I could maybe do is move Nixon down, but like I said, I Nixon's 3-2. He just dropped 145. I like his roster, so it's less that Drake is bad and more just that we have a lot of 3-2 teams. Even my eighth
Hmm.
spot, Tucker is 3-2. So there's just a lot of good teams in the top half of the league. I won't point out Drake's team's flaws because you already kind of hit at them, but just if anyone's looking like, whoa, Drake at 7, there's just a lot of good teams. I didn't know who else to move down.
Yeah, certainly. And then we both agree on TJ there at number six. Of course, he's on a two-game winning streak after that tough start. He's got the second highest points for and the second highest points against. Things that just kind of stand out to me. Chase Brown there, RB2. Just, that Bengals offense is concerning. He's had some bad weeks. Here he was really reception dependent, 7 for 8, but only 21 yards. Like he had, 48 yards total. That's really concerning. And then Wandale Robinson is wide receiver too. And you look down at the squad, Travis Hunter had a nice game tonight, but nothing crazy. So that's just what kind of concerns me is that flex spot and that running back too. But I like his quarterbacks. I like Jameer Gibbs, of course. He's crazy. Puka is a beast. So I like the squad, but I struggle to push him much beyond six.
Yeah, I left TJ at 6, didn't move him up. I kind of wanted to move him up, but again, a lot of good teams. He didn't outscore anyone above him in my power rankings this week besides Logan, and obviously he's not going to pass Logan. So I wanted to move TJ above 6, but I couldn't. And there are some flaws, like you said. Hopefully Kyle Pitts is ready. Although maybe Brenton Strange could come back from this. It doesn't seem like it's overly serious. But yeah, I wanted to move TJ up. I think he's a solid playoff team, but he does need Chase Brown to get better, and he needs to figure something out at wide receiver too. Definitely some flaws to address, like most teams.
So I just want to talk about Tucker, and then we'll just kind of blast through the last four real quick and move on to our picks. So Tucker, a faller for both of us. I guess you left Tucker at 8. I didn't realize you had Tucker at 8 last week, but I dropped Tucker 4 spots down to 10. And like we said earlier, just the injury bug really has gotten him. Neighbors out, Najee Harris going down. It just doesn't seem like it's his year with how these injuries are shaking out. So he's just going to try and reset and retool. And so this is one of those where, you got to know what the direction for your team is. And it just didn't make sense for him to keep trying to win. He just doesn't have the pieces to do it. And so certainly makes a lot of sense to just get off anyone who's putting up points and just trying to build more around that. Neighbors, Travion Henderson, Marvin Harrison now, RJ Harvey. He's got some young guys that he can focus on moving forward. Woody Mark. So,
Yeah, probably could have moved Tucker down more. I'm not going to say that I was locked in as I was making these last five spots in the power rankings.
right.
Some good things, honestly, like the Marvin Harrison edition. I think he's a solid receiver. I think he's most likely going to get you double digits most weeks. I think he's over his early season, terribleness. So I like that. Kenneth Walker is kind of scaring me though. He's basically in a timeshare with Zach Charbonnet, and like you said, Tucker doesn't want to win, so I've got him at 8. Don't know if he's a playoff team. Probably could have moved him down more, but he is 3-2, so he's in the top 8 with all the other 3-2 teams.
Yeah, it certainly seems one thing that's just standing out to me is it's looking like Tyler might be able to make the playoffs. He might be able to salvage the unction because if Evans tanking, Austin's tanking, Tucker's tanking, Charlie is 1-4. Like that door is wide open for Chitty to sneak in at the last spot, and once you're in, anything can happen. But yeah, just anything you want to talk about with Tyler, Austin, Charlie, Evan. They're at the bottom of both of our power rankings. They've kind of been down there. Anything standing out you want to mention?
Nothing crazy. I mean, looking at Tyler, since Tyler actually had a good week, put up 133 and just lost to you, it's really unfortunate that he's 1-4. I think he's a little better than that. He started Jerome Ford, but that's mainly because Jalen Warren's on a bye. I kind of wonder how long Jalen Warren's gonna keep that up because he's always felt like more of a pass catching back. And I know they drafted Caleb Johnson, but if Jalen Warren is actually solid, then I think Tyler's team looks pretty good. He probably needs to upgrade from Carson Wentz at QB2, but the door's wide open for the playoffs for him, like you said. A lot of talent. Easily could have won this week.
Certainly, certainly, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our picks for this week. So we've got a Grant going up against Tyler, and unfortunately, I think both of us decided that while Tyler needs to start getting some dubs, this is not going to be the week for him. I
No,
went
one
with
of us
Grant
did
here
not
again.
decide that. One of us
Oh,
felt the
really?
opposite. Yes.
Interesting. So I'm a big fan of
Um,
Grant's team, as I've mentioned. There's that wide receiver room I think is elite, and Saquon's going against an elite Giants front line, and so I'm just concerned about the points he may be able to put up there, and so I went with Grant here. But sounds like you went
I
with Tyler.
did. I went with Tyler, and real quick, so I'm 17-7 now. You're 16-8. You were working more on these slides. So how did I pass you? Do you know?
You got all of them right last week.
Wow, that's crazy. And I will go ahead and spoil this for people. This is the one we need to talk about because we picked the same on the other 5 games this week. But Tyler and Grant, we are split. Um, Looking at this, like I said, Grant's team better suited for a championship run. I think there are some real problems. I don't love that he's going to be starting Caleb Williams and Cam Ward. He does not have a second running back as of now. I haven't really looked at who's available on the waiver wire, but he's going to have to figure that out. And so as I look at it, he has the quarterback problem, the running back problem. I think Tyler can move Jalen Warren back in pretty nicely. And I even think he might be able to catch some passes against the Cleveland defense as they're trying to figure out ways to move the ball. So I just think there's some problems. This is assuming, I want to say, that Tyler moves Dylan Gabriel off his taxi squad, which is not a given because Carson Wentz is on bye. So he's going to need a second quarterback, but he puts Dylan Gabriel in. Maybe he gets you a 15, maybe not. But I just think Grant has some real problems this week. I think Tyler needs this win. I don't know what Grant's going to do at RB2. I don't trust the quarterbacks. And I'm going with Tyler.
I see the logic. I think it's going to be a good game, a close game. Excited to see how that shakes out. Let's look at you versus Tucker. Of course, you just both went with you, Tucker, entering full tank mode now, and your team's been scoring a lot of points recently. I think this is not going to be a close game. I don't think Tucker wants it to be a close game. So I think this one's a pretty clear cut win for you.
Yeah, nothing to add on this really, or the TJ versus Evan game.
Yeah,
Good for TJ that
another
he's going to get a win because he deserves more wins than he has. If Evan wins, obviously I'll be very, very surprised.
right. We both went with me versus Drake. My main reason here is the Vikings are on bye, which means no Justin Jefferson for Drake, which I think is a huge knock for him. CD may play, may not play, but I think I can fill that role. It's not like Marv was putting up a ton of points for me. He put up 12, I think, last week. Um, and I'm just worried about that quarterback situation for him. And without Justin Jefferson, I think he's really kind of set up for failure.
Yeah, like I said, I just think your team is stacked right now. Drake has some real holes. I just hate that Gino is going to be starting unless he picks up someone else. We talked about Quentin Johnston, and now he has DJ Moore as well, who's only broken double digits once this season with the Justin Jefferson bye. And the matchup I love for you, Javonte Williams against Carolina, give me all of
Hmm.
that. So I
Hmm.
just think you have a better roster right now, especially when Justin Jefferson's on a bye. Um, yeah, this could be a tough one for Drake.
So looking at Logan here, we got Logan versus Austin. Austin moving off Lamar Jackson, as we've seen. He's looking to maybe uh, build around these draft picks he's got and look towards the future. Logan, of course, both of us had the top of the power rankings. I think this is pretty clear cut,
Yeah,
said
I
and
think
done
I will say
victory.
I think this one could be interesting. The projections are around the same. I was told by Austin that he's not really interested in contending anymore, so that makes me pick Logan. But Austin, I was kind of surprised when he said he was tanking. He still got some decent players, so I think this is one maybe Austin could win if he wanted to. I don't really think he does. And obviously Logan's going to be able to move Ray Davis out for probably Josh Jacobs, so I'll give him the win.
Yeah, I do like just mention Austin's team a little bit. He's got three firsts next year. Um, and a couple of young, I mean, he's got Bucky Irving, he's of T. Higgins, CJ Stroud. He's got some guys that he could build around Brees Hall. He's got a couple of unks in there that he's got to move off and kind of get that asset return out, get some picks and young players. But yeah, I
Yeah.
like what Austin's doing. And then finally, we got Will versus Charlie. Again, Charlie, he's 1-4. Looks like maybe he's bouncing back, but I just think he's running into a tough matchup with Nixon next week. I think that's going to be a tough one for him to pull off.
Yeah, I really like Bo Nix against the Jets for Nixon. This is one I need Nixon to win since I kept him at 4 in my power rankings. Said I liked his team. It is worth noting I talked about, hey, he should start Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's on bye, so I think this is one that Charlie could win. Like I said, I think his roster's better than his record. But I rank Nixon high. I got to stick with him. I really like that Bo Nix matchup. Baltimore hasn't looked good either. I mean, maybe Kyron Williams
Right,
could have a
Kyron.
big week. So.
Yeah.
I'll go with Nixon, but I think this is one Charlie needs to win. I think it's one he could. I'm just not confident enough in it to pick him.
Yeah. I think that game, Tyler Grant are going to be our two of our most interesting games this week.
Yes, but it is
But
worth noting you versus Drake is America's game of the week, chosen by me. So, yeah, there you go.
let's go. So let's look at just a couple of trades made here in the past few days, both with me. So I'm going to let you just kind of give your thoughts first, and I can talk through the reasoning for kind of how they came to be, and then what I liked about.
Yeah, so the trades we have here on screen, both involving Isaac. So I'll start with the one that's a little less interesting. I don't know if I'm a casual. I don't know what Alec Pierce has been up to. I don't know what his stats are. Don't really know anything about him. But the trade is that you get Mac Jones and you give up Alec Pierce and a third round pick. Like I said, I really like this for you. Just I don't know how much longer Mac Jones is going to be playing, but I think you needed a quarterback. I'm going to let you talk about this one because, like I said, I don't know anything about Alex Pierce. Take it away.
Yeah, so I was just watching that Niners game, and he was hooping. You saw the memes about he was getting knocked down, getting back up, all that stuff. And I thought he could play another week or two. JJ McCarthy wouldn't be back to like week 7. So my thought here was like, let me just get a quarterback who can play for 2 more weeks. If I'm contending, let me help myself get a dub. Of course, I eventually get Baker Mayfield, so Mac Jones will just certainly not be playing for me. So now the philosophy is just kind of switched to, he did play really well, and there's a lot of quarterback needy teams. Very possible that next year he could find himself the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints or the Raiders or something. And then it's like, well, that's at least a value win, right? A starting quarterback has more value than Alec Pierce in the third. So not a needle mover, not something we're really going to remember until probably next August. But that was a trade that happened.
If you're like me and you're wondering what Alec Pierce has been up to, I just looked it up. He had 4 points in week 1, then 10 the next 2 weeks, and now he's out with a concussion. Should be back soon. And Alec, we wish you a speedy recovery.
Nice. So what are your thoughts on the CD trade?
Yeah, so big trade, much bigger trade than Alec Pierce. Isaac receives Baker Mayfield and CD Lamb. In exchange, he gives up Marvin Harrison, RJ Harvey, his 26th first, and his 26th second, I assume. They actually don't say whose pick they are, but I
Yeah,
assume
it's
they're
mine.
yours.
Or no, that one's TJ. Sorry, that's TJ's second.
TJ's second, not a huge deal. I think So giving up
Mhm.
your first is fine because I think you're one of the best teams in the league. I thought this might have been a little much for you at first, just because I like Marvin Harrison. The talent's still there. He's very young. He's looked okay this season. Um, but after thinking about it a little more, CD is still 26 and he's great. And I think, oh, he's out a couple weeks, whatever. It's a dynasty league. I mean, you could have just gotten a top five wide receiver for years to come. Baker, I don't know. I know he's been the second best quarterback this year in fantasy. I wonder how much he's going to keep that up. Maybe not that pace. I think he can still be solid. And the guy I'm not super high on is RJ Harvey. He's already 24, if I'm not mistaken, a 24-year-old rookie. They clearly seem to like Dobbins a lot more. So I don't know if RJ Harvey's ever really going to be anything. So I don't think it's a huge overpay. You needed Baker, and I think once CD comes back, it's going to make your team really, really good. I think people are starting to forget how good he is just because Pickens has been playing so well and CD's been out, but he's still a pretty consistent 20 when he's healthy.
Yeah, certainly. Baker was also like a top five quarterback in fantasy last year, so I believe he can kind of keep this up. And yeah, the thought process was, simply uh, quarterback two is a hole I've had. Getting Baker there is really helpful. Moving up to CD Lamb really helps me in the short term, certainly. And then, he's got at least a bit of runway left. But I also like it for Tucker. He gets two guys, which like they could be great. J.K. Dobbins has had a lot of injury history, so it's very possible that week nine he goes down and R.J. Harvey does really well, and all of a sudden he's this 15 point per game running back. And then the first and the second, you may think, oh, my team's really good, but I can also get bumped in the first round. That's a bad matchup. I get unlucky, and all of a sudden that's the 106 or something like that, and then that's a really valuable trade. So
Yeah, I do
I think it's
forget
pretty
how
even for both of us what we're trying to do.
yeah, I do forget how volatile those picks are based on the playoffs. I mean, we've talked about all it takes is making the playoffs, and then anything could happen from there. I did
Anything
think
could
this was a
happen.
fair trade. I said in the chat, Tucker, reasonable, Cromwell, and I stand by that.
Yeah.
You have to go to the ending slide before I can say goodbye.
My
Thank you
bad.
so much for watching the Mousetrap Podcast. We appreciate y'all. A little late night record for us here. We got Bella Chopped coming up soon. Only half the teams remaining. I'm not going to spoil who's out, but you probably already know it was wild. And we should, knock on wood, have a special guest for that as well. Isaac, anything to say before we bid farewell on week five Dynasty?
I'm just curious, what you guys think of the power rankings. Drop in the comments. Do we have your team too high, too low? TJ, we're trying to move you up. There's a lot of good teams, but we got you at six now. So,
Yeah, just keep winning. Just keep winning. It'll come.
all
Appreciate
right.
y'all so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.